Well, Coach, I honestly, first question for you, I was just going to say was I'd love to hear about your thoughts about last game. Obviously, a big win. Obviously, I wanted to ask about why not as well, because I mean, only her second career started. Sure didn't look like it.
Yeah, no, it's a good weekend for us. I mean, when you can go up to the North Country, take that trip and come back with 3 points. I mean, obviously we would have loved to sweep, but I think that's a big step forward for us. And I just think it was a big character win for us too. It's tough to play in our league. It's tough to play on Saturdays. We were really scratching and clawing for the split. So, yeah, just a great team effort. And Izzy was really, really good in there. Pretty cool to give a couple pucks after to her, which were for both the win and the shutout. But she was just rock solid and really helped us get that win. So great to see. And just, really, I think our goalies continue to have good competition in there, and we're able to rely on all three of them. So great to see Izzy have a good start there.
I was going to say, what is that kind of looking like in practice? I always love a good goalie competition, but how do you see that from behind the scenes?
Yeah, I think, our preseason, I've said this before, like they're three of our hardest workers. They're all very different, but like they come ready to go. They compete really hard, they battle. And they also, obviously once we make a choice, like they're gonna support each other, whoever's in the net. So, they all had really good preseasons. And so we knew at the start of the year, like, hey, let's and we told them, like, you're all gonna get some time. So we've kind of had that rotation going. I think as the season goes, we're gonna look to make decisions based on not only how they're playing in practice and that competition, but also the matchup too. Obviously, we play a lot of different teams, so that might come into it a little bit more. But yeah, right now just really good competition in there, and it's only helping our team.
What would you say is your team's identity kind of in this early season? What's emerging, and what do you think your team really does the best on the ice?
Yeah, it's a good question. Um, I think we want to be a really hardworking team that's really tough to play against, and being able to say that that's what you are requires that consistently from everybody. So I think we're still, working on that and trying to get better every day. But ultimately, like we want to play a fast and physical game and be relentless. And I think, I do think we really have elements of that, and it's just a matter of having that show up for 60 game in and game out. But I think, our program's taking big steps forward, I think from year one to year two and now in year three as well. And a big part of that has, just initially being really tough to play against, defending better. And now it's how do we drive possession? How do we have the puck more, sustain offense, create chances? And I think we've already seen a little bit of that, and we're just going to continue to work on that and play as five in motion, be really hard to defend too. So those are some things that stand out. But again, it takes like daily work and a lot of time to really say like that's our identity and we can hang our hat on that.
I was gonna say because I feel like even if you look at the results, you look at even just the stats, you guys have been scoring a decent amount of goals. I was gonna ask you too about the power play as well, because obviously I know that that's something that you want your team to continue to get better at. How are you working on that specifically in practice, and how do you go about that?
Yeah, we've scored some goals. We'd like to score more goals. But I think, it's tough. We have a young team, and the jump from the high school level to college, it just becomes so much harder to score. And so takes some time, but I think, we're getting scoring from a lot of different areas. Certainly our returners have shown up on the score sheet, and really excited about that. And our D have been very involved offensively. We want to continue to have that be the case. Our power play, you obviously want to score power play goals. I do think there's been a lot of good. We've created a lot of chances. We have a goal that came right at the end of a power play that really was the result of good work on the power play. So, it doesn't affect your percentage, but I think it's just important to recognize the chances we've been creating. And, probably the biggest thing is just because you have a numerical advantage doesn't mean the work ethic changes. Our Ven Lahovi runs our power play, one of our assistant coaches, and she's been talking about like this is a working women's power play. So we're all going to be working women out there. We're going to expect to get in battles, and ultimately, that's really important to be able to come up with the puck, possess it, and now create off of it. So we just got to keep working. I think, when you have more time and space on the power play, that's great, but it's really important to give each other good pucks. Like fundamental hockey becomes that much more important. So I think we can be cleaner, we can be simpler, smarter, make better plays, but like there's been a lot of good, and I think it's coming for our group, and that'll help with the confidence a little bit too.
I was gonna say it does seem like I've watched a little film around your power plays. It seems like there are so many good chances. It's getting really close, and then again, you create good opportunities outside of it. So just because it's not, on the actual stat sheet doesn't mean it doesn't create a good opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's important to recognize that too, because if you're, you can look at percentages. Of course, we want to score more power play goals, but can't ultimately it's about creating chances, right? Like even the best power plays are going to be 25, 30, 33% somewhere in there. That's pretty high. So, you're not scoring as often as you're unable to score. So, just a matter of if we are creating, then like gaining confidence from that and eventually they're going to go. So, yeah.
Perfect. I was gonna say, Craig, you can go ahead.
Thanks, Katie. Thanks, Phil. And thank you, Laura, as always. Just to follow up quickly, Coach, on the North Country trip, just the one goal against all weekend. What would you say was the key to the lockdown defensively compared to the weekend before, where you had a couple of five spots against?
Yeah. Um yeah, I think so much of it is really, I mean, that's how we want to play it. We want to lock it down. We want to be really tough to score on. I think we learned a lot from the first weekend. Probably the biggest adjustment we made was we just needed to be much quicker to support, way more aggressive below our own dots. And, I think our D and centers especially like really got better at that last week. And we talk about it a lot. Like we want to be the best at getting better. So, can you make adjustments Friday to Saturday? Obviously, we don't play the same team, but can we get better Friday to Saturday? And then, of course, can we get better throughout the week? And I really believe in that. I think our coaching staff has done a really good job at you can focus on a million things or you can be great at focusing on one thing and getting better at it. And I think that's the key. And so yeah, we focused a ton that week. Cornell and Colgate made us pay for sure in our own end, and just giving them too much space down low led itself to space all over the offensive zone, and we were scrambling. So really worked on that a ton, and I thought made huge improvements. And I think our team has really been good at adjustments from Friday to Saturday. So that'll be fun this weekend playing the same team back to back. But I just think our application from either video to game or practice to game because you're not able to work on everything in practice. But just that application and that transfer of learning it and doing it is incredible. Our group has been really good at handling information and putting it into play. But that was probably the biggest thing, which is below our dots. We were way better this past weekend. Want to continue to do that.
Hmm. Related to a couple things you just said there, is there any sort of a different approach or preference among you and your staff or the players themselves to playing the same team twice in one weekend versus usually you don't do that? Is it a little bit different this weekend or just business as usual?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, like, it shouldn't matter who we're lining up against. We've got to focus on ourselves and continue to get better. So in that way, it's not too much different, but I've coached both, played, obviously when I played here, I'm used to how the ECAC does it, and then the WCHA, we played back to back. I think the biggest thing is the adjustments because when you're watching video Friday night, typically Friday to Saturday we focus on ourselves, but the opponent might be doing something completely different anyway because they're a completely different opponent. I think the adjustment Friday to Saturday when you're playing the same team becomes it's more of a chess match. Like what are they going to adjust? How do we beat them to it? How do we make an adjustment that they don't expect? So that's probably the biggest thing. But from, a preparation standpoint and coaching perspective, it's all pretty similar.
Yeah. Uh, what has been the focus in practice this week, or is there something that you want to see implemented this weekend?
Yeah, I think a couple things. Like I said, last week we focused below our own dots defensively, and that went a long way. And for us, Monday was a battle day, and making sure that we're committed to the work all the time. The work is the way, and it's really important as the season goes on to keep our finger on that and make sure that that's the case. And I think our captains, our leaders, like they're not afraid to work. They love it, and they're such good examples of that. So those battles, those kind of cutoff plays, closeouts where you go hip to hip, take away someone's hands to come up with the puck. Like that's been a big focus. I know, we expect Dartmouth to be pretty physical, so like we're gonna play that way as well. And just continuing to be as physical as possible on the puck and even away from it. And then yeah, just some things with our forecheck. Obviously, special teams are always a focus, and we will continue every week to try to become more dynamic in our offensive zone. So, a handful of things, but definitely just trying to take steps forward, continue getting better, and feel like we're doing that right now.
Mm. And with the goalie situation, it sounded like maybe you were getting towards something and didn't quite, or perhaps I misread it, or maybe you said this a couple weeks ago. But do you want to get to a point where you have an established number one, or is that still to be determined? Could you rotate all year if that's what's working out best?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, we knew we wanted to rotate early and get everybody time, and not just for the sake of doing it, but because all three had really good preseasons and they're capable of playing. We want to see them play. And they're getting different matchups every time they're in too. So obviously we've done that rotation twice through. We'll see if we want to, carry that on a little bit longer. The other piece of it as you go is just getting matchups that you want, whether it's some of our older goalies having already played certain teams and done well or have good matchups for them or a certain style that teams play. Like that does come into the decision at a certain point.
Hmm.
But it's really like letting it play out. If we have certain plans, but there's, if you have too much of a plan and you're really rigid about it, like then you're not adapting to what's happening. So I think right now it's really important for them to just continue to be really good in practice, compete, battle, make our team better. And then on the weekend, like it comes down to who's playing well and who's the best matchup for who we're playing. So that's probably where we'll shift to. And if that's one, two, or three, like as long as the puck's staying out of the net, like that's the most important thing. I think coaches sometimes get set on wanting a starter to go with or wanting a two-person rotation to have. And I don't know, I'm just not that, set on that. I just because I think all three of our goalies do things, certain things really well. And they all have strengths. So it's really just gonna be like who's playing well and who's the best matchup for who we're playing. And if we can keep teams to, off the score sheet or only putting one or two goals away and we can score two or three, like that's gonna get it done. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
Hmm. Just a couple more from me, and again, thank you so much for your time here.
Of course.
Curious, it seems like a lot of success here early on, 3 wins already. I thought against Cornell in the first period, your team was the better team. Maybe they just had a little bit more finish there, in my opinion, in that first. So where's the confidence level of the group right now? What's the mood like in the locker room after some early season success?
Yeah, I think it's good. Like you can't focus too much on results, but it's part of it. And when you can establish yourselves and get some wins, like that's always going to help. Taking a step back just where our program's at, I think in our first year, we there's a lot of games we just weren't in the game. And then, last year took a huge step forward in terms of being in games. I think we went to overtime 8 or 9 times. I mean, games were tight. We were losing by one goal. We were um, you know, it was we I think commanded respect across our league in terms of the type of team we were to play against. And some other coaches had said like that's not a game I look forward to at this point. And that's what you want to hear, obviously, in terms of your style. So that was a huge step forward. And then like you're saying, now it's okay, how do we continue to do that, continue to play really tough, work hard, block shots, defend as well as anybody, and then, be able to go the other way, have the puck, create, score, and that's going to lead to consistent results. So, I think to be where we're at, we've already won more games than we did a year ago. Great, good for us. I think that's a good thing, but it's not, we certainly have much higher expectations for ourselves and that's part of this build. That's what our group's committed to. And I think for our players, and again, our leaders have really led the charge on this, just like we're going to work. Like the work is the way, whether we're getting the results, whether we're not, as we're playing for championships, if we're if it's Ivy, if it's ECAC, if it's non-conference, it's unconditional. Like we're gonna work, and that's when you consistently start to see results too. So just maintaining our focus on that, and I think yeah, everything else will take care of itself.
Hmm. Uh, so Cassica will stay as a forward.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
her story is just like Kate has the deepest well you could ever imagine in terms of
Yeah.
energy, in terms of passion and commitment to this program. I think she's an incredible captain. Um, really proud of her. And, she shifted from D up to forward, made a position change. When we let her know, she was like, can't wait for the opportunity. And then she went out and had a great practice and has been just, I mean, such an energy player, great forechecker. She skates like the wind. So she's been really good on the PK. She's on our top set on our PK. I mean, it's such a great story in terms of just finding a role and being really valuable, no matter what that is. She always was that way, but now that she's getting more time on the ice, it's great to see, and she's made a huge impact. So,
Mm.
yeah, then then D gets hurt, so we're down to five. So we obviously have the option to move her back, but she's just been really helpful for us up front. So for now, she'll stay up there.
Mm. Yeah, thank you for that. Uh, who is Harvard women's hockey's biggest rival right now?
It's a good question. I would say, um, I don't know. Like, I don't care who we're playing. It's interesting. Like, there's been times in this program where we're the hunted and everybody thinks that we're their rival. And right now I think we're the hunter. Like we got to go find our way, win hockey games, do it consistently and be the one that's circled again that we are the hunted. So we're a little bit in that transition. We talk about that a lot, like we're the hunter. And that's a little bit of a different mentality than I had when I was playing here and was an assistant coach, but I can't wait to get back to being the hunted again. But for now, I mean, anybody we play, they're gonna get our best. I think the Ivy League games there's always a little bit extra there, right? Because they're in our league, they're in the ECAC, and then we have Ivy bragging rights and an Ivy title on the line. So that's I think probably the way I would go there. And so exciting for us. Our next four games are all Ivy opponents, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah, and then just to button it up, your impression of Dartmouth and what sticks out to you about them when you watch the tape.
Yeah, I mean, huge wins for them so far. They can play with anybody. I think their goaltending is world class, and it's like they're tough to score goals on. I think they play really hard. They're physical. I think they find ways to be physical that for their opponent can be really frustrating, and they wear them down. So all things that, while we focus on our game, like we got to be aware of, we want to exploit as much as possible, or at least again, if they're going to play physical, like that's how we want to play too. You got to expect, you got to be ready for it. And yeah, I think it's going to be a great series. Really looking forward to it.
That's all I got, Laura. Thank you again so much. Phil, appreciate you. Katie, if you have anything to finish up with, otherwise, travel safe and we'll see you Saturday.
Yeah, I am all good. Thank you so much, Coach.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Appreciate your work.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
Everyone.